Excellent.
He's on too.
All right. Again, I apologize for tonight's meeting. It's a little bit. I do apologize for that, but very thankful. Right over here. Kathleen Simpson and Matthew.
David Becker.
David Becker. Okay, sorry. Thank you. I realized Matthew and blank. They were hoping to come to the meeting to kind of give us some input on voting.
Oh,
Kathy,
please.
Kathy, yes, thank you. So we might have to follow up with them next month, but what I'm hoping to do, normally we would go through our goals and review them and make sure we're on track with them, follow up with anything that we've left unattended, but because we're a little bit shorter on time tonight, I do have to close our meeting around 5:40. 5:45, thank you. We're gonna give most of our time to Kathleen, if that's okay, just in terms of having the conversation with you, finding out a little bit about what your role here in town, and then maybe even getting a chance to find out how we can support you in your role and alongside that. So before we do that, the one piece of business we do need to make sure to cover is kind of reviewing the minutes from our last meeting, which you may have gotten, should have gotten, and then voting on those August minutes. So really, since we've sent them out and reviewed them, it's a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Seconded. Any questions or anything like that about the minutes before we vote? Okay, so all in favor of approving the August minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Okay, good. I think that's everyone. I think that's. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Adrian.
This is actually Patty. I don't know why my husband's name is on here. Sorry. He changed it. He's taking away my identity.
They do that, don't they?
Well, actually, if you identify as Brendan today, he's going to look a lot better.
Oh, yeah, for him.
Great, excellent. Okay, so those minutes have been approved. And so, Kathleen, you are fairly new to the role, if I understand correctly, in the last year. And one of the questions we as a commission have kind of wanted to do, but also we're curious about is really support you in your role as ADA compliance officer, and find out ways that we can support the town in becoming even more ADA compliant. So would you mind sharing with us a bit more about your role and how you do that?
Certainly. Recently, I've been with the town of Fairfield for just over 2 years now. And I come from a background of working for the state for almost 30 years and different roles at public safety and DCF, Office of Policy and Management, Department of Labor. So, and I was very lucky to also work in the city of New Haven, who has a very robust department. It's basically has a department for disability services. And I worked with, and you may be familiar with it, I'm going to get her here, Michelle Dupre, who's now Assistant Corporation Counsel, who also was the Director of Disability Services for many, many years. And I still crib things from her because what they do in the city, they have it for residents, citizens, but also the employees. So they cover everything, which is great, but they also have it really shored up and how to support the money and things like that, which, would kind of interesting how you have different, pockets. So I come here, at least luckily having background in ADA and compliance, and also the interplay with our employees with workers' comp and FMLA, because they all come together, really important. So I feel that we have the employee side really shored up in terms of interactive process and what to do if there's complaints there. The place where I want, and this is where I really need the support too from everyone in this room and is working on compliance, complaints, concerns within the community outside of just the scope of the employee piece. And right now, I was saying after this meeting going forward, I have some plans and like to share them with you to kind of, how's that work? HR, of course, can handle the ADA interplay and the employees. We have Bill Hurley, who you know, who's for the engineering, those type of issues with access with buildings and that type of thing, and James Ryan, who's also facilities. If there's this issue with access to a building that he can help with. And also having Julie with social services too, and that type of piece, I think would be a good team. And also operations, that's why I asked David to be here as the COO, because it is an operations issue, a program. We have program managers, and that is an important component when you're looking at projects. So we want to, and I really do appreciate any help I can get, and will have you part of that collaborative process going forward, so we can really shore it up. Because again, I'm one person. Oh, and I forgot to, I have Attorney Nikki Dwyer from Cohen and Wolf, who's our point person for legal. So we can go to her to ask if hey, is this a reasonable accommodation? If there's something how can we get there? What do we do to get the advice on legally? But also I want to know best practice. So going out, finding what different communities do, what your concerns are. I'd like to hear, what your areas you feel would be best to be that we could help together work on. I think that I really, really am glad I can be part of this, because it's such an important thing to me, particularly it's not just, HR with employees, but people who are interviewing. How do we help that if we need to accommodate someone for an interview or for a testing procedure? And luckily, with the one thing about COVID, we know that we can do things remotely, which is a real game changer for those who can't get access as easily. So that's really where I'm headed. We did shore up our policy. We're getting it. I have it. It's online in HR, and it should be up on the webpage for the ADA compliance, but it needs to have the other component. It has a component for the employee. We need to add the component for the citizens who want to information, complaints or concerns. I'm not putting it all negative or positive feedback and suggestions. So that's really my approach. I really, like I said, it's very exciting to be involved in it, and so.
Thank you very much. I know we want to kind of probably open the floor up to some questions. I know Karen will, let me just say one thing, then I'll pass the mic to you if that's okay. I know that, we've been trying to brainstorm how we can really come alongside the town and support their efforts and in kind of being more, not just ADA compliant, but more inclusive in terms of the needs of all of the citizens in the town. And one of the things we attempted to do was put out a survey and kind of get feedback from the community. And some of the feedback we received were specific needs like sidewalks and things like that in the town. And what was nice was we were able to take that and I think it was to Bill Hurley. Is that his name? It was in engineering, yeah. And he replied back to me and said, that the town was already working on a solution to the sidewalk issue in that part of the town. I just didn't have a way of circling back to the member, the citizen, because it was, anonymously given through the survey. But I think it would be nice to be able to communicate back to the citizen that the town is doing that work. They are addressing needs as they come up, as they're able to, and to be able to help communicate that would be, I think, a wonderful thing to encourage our citizens where possible. But
yeah, we have our website that we have there, and there might be a way to work that out with information. A communications director, Lisa Claire, might be able to help with that too, with getting the word out on, positive things and access things, not, that we're doing for the town.
Yeah.
And also, we have I have an inbox right now to see if there's any incoming concerns, comments or complaints.
Yeah,
I don't call them complaints, I just areas of concern.
tickets or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, so far, and again, the more awareness people get about what we do, you tend to get more inquiries
Yeah.
and more, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think I want to make sure we have enough bandwidth and we're doing it well.
Mhm.
And so certainly the support, and trying to find means to do that
Yeah.
in a more effective way. So things just don't sit. On the other hand, if we can make an immediate fix, let's do that.
Yeah.
And we're also too, it's also, maybe we're gonna need to find areas that, hey, you know, we can find, I'm just putting it out there, funding or whatever else, and having considerations when you're doing an operation, like operations or capital projects, for instance, those kind of things. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Karen, if you want to unmute, Karen is actually, I turned over my shoulder, but she's also.
She's there. It's outside.
Karen is someone who is passionate about working along the lines of ADA compliance. She's been involved in that in the past. And I'm just trying to buy her time while she unmutes her mic. But this is certainly an area that she's very passionate about as one of the commissioners. I might, let me see if I can unmute her from the computer.
For Karen, does your new team of operations, that's like everything, every project you're working on has a piece of that ADA compliance, right? So are you also fielding requests for information, or like how does that play in?
Say that, but the idea is we're building a capital projects group, project managers, any project that minimum, any project 100,000 or above is gonna fall under there. And so, yeah, I mean, then that will have a piece to that. Everything that we do, any of the newer projects we do are compliant. The other piece is, not every road that we always touch, but as we go through just town, I mean, just getting around town and beyond that, we're trying to put a complete streets connectivity and safety piece. There's also, anytime that we're going into an area and doing roads or sidewalks, making sure that is moved to being compliant too. So, and I think that's a piece that touches if someone's, there's a number of things that people have in the past contacted the town and raised awareness of that something that's town property that isn't necessarily, and that'll flow through Kathleen, but then it's gotta go out to, to the appropriate departments to try to rectify that. And that's where, not just on a project side, but on an overall operational piece. I usually say I'm trying to break all the barriers to facilitate whatever anyone needs to do to get things done. So.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, I just
No,
think
no. I mean, it's a fair sort of as it ties in. I memean, yeah.
And I think to add to that, the programming too, we want to make sure it's ADA compliant as well. And that's another piece when we're looking at, just parks and rec programs that, might be obviously, what was the statistic my colleague Michelle Dupre told me before, said that, especially with seniors, if you do a survey of seniors, oftentimes they'll say, I don't have a disability, I just can't hear well. And so they won't answer it properly, like, there's nothing wrong, I think I do that myself, I'm fine, I just can't see. But I mean, so I think that sometimes when you survey that population, they don't, and so sometimes it's skewed, it's not, you don't get good information that might be helpful. So if you know what the issues are, you can address them better. So.
And I think, some of the things, in this works well where I think where it's placed now. Kathleen, as the HR director, sees a lot of different things on the employee side. So she's tried to break, some of the barriers down. So even some of the things are temporary. Somebody gets hurt or surgery or whatever the thing may be, instead of, okay, we'll see you in a year, or it's going to be a rough path. She's already trying to break down sort of the issue at hand and try to, in that window, make sure that we're being a better employer and better to the individual, and then ultimately that's better for everybody. So
Karen's ready to go.
Yeah, so probably.
she's on.
All right, Karen,
I'm not,
I'm not muted anymore. Okay.
Yeah, you're good to go now if you want to share your thoughts, and questions.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome. I'm so glad we have you available to us and to certainly to the citizens of Fairfield. One portion or one piece of ADA, and I was involved in doing ADA compliance for the city of Norwalk as one of the consultants through a group that had accepted the position. So one thing we did was we had to survey both programmatically and physically the schools. We had to go through each of the schools and make sure their programs were accessible and that their structures were accessible. I'm just wondering, that's like one question. The other thing, and this I brought up before, regarding the size of the font that the town uses. The size of the font, I'm not sure of, but I think it's like an 8, if that. And I've requested that to be changed to a more reasonable font so that people, both from the public and who are working on different committees, can actually see what's being written. And this is, I understand, town-wide, that this is the size font that is used. So it may seem immaterial, but I think it's important so that staff and the public and people that serve on these committees can read it. So those are 3 little things to bring up.
Those are really great points. And I think there are things you can do also on websites also for hearing and also for sight that can be done. And that's it. And that's something that I 100%. And it could be something that could be an easy fix. And the other piece about your 100% too, right, about looking at the programs and also structures and having to review that in inventory, if you will, for compliance. And that's a little harder because I, boots on the ground, I'm having the time to people, but that's something that I think maybe, well, I know now that we have a group and we're looking at it and we have this team, I'm giving a lot of promises here for you, sorry, Dave. But we'll have more people, when they're looking at structures, you'll have people looking at that through a project what I did with ADA and also the programming too. And going back to surveying as well, and trying to find out, trying to help with that messaging. Because let's face it, not everybody has access to that sometimes, or they may not have we're finding that with Paycom, we're turning it over, not everybody's technologically as advanced as others, and it's, not as easy. So anyway, those are great points. Thank you.
And did you say something about the schools?
Oh, the schools, well, the schools, that's a good, I believe they have their own, their own program. And that's another thing on my list there to go and coordinate, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel either. So if they've already got something in motion, let's bring them in together. And I'm hoping, because I know that I would presume that their HR department, that they have for the requirements with programs and with schools that I know they're reporting. But I definitely will follow up on that as well.
And
I was forgetting about the schools, I'm sorry.
And the physical access too, not just buildings that the town owns and uses, but also, well, part of that is included are the schools. So they need to be looked at in terms of access as well.
Yeah, if I could jump in, I think one of the things we've even discussed in the past and want to be as a team is not so much a clearinghouse for these tickets, but to assist in kind of helping raise the awareness so that the town's aware, but also the citizens are aware of what the town's already doing, knowing that we can't accomplish all these tasks at once. Like it's going to be a long-term thing. And so, like if someone were to come to us and talk to us about the schools, we'd want to know, okay, we really probably need to point them in the direction of the Board of Education, because they're the ones who are ultimately responsible for that and may already be working on something. But does that make sense? So it's rather than us collecting complaints from the town and then dumping them on your desk. I think
I don't see these as complaints. I see them as points to assist and to help make the town more accessible. I don't see it as a
sorry,
complaint.
you're right, Karen. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to characterize it as a complaint, but more so that we're helping to raise awareness around the issues in town, but then like kind of entrust them, the town, to kind of prioritize things based on their awareness of their budget and the priority of needs, if that makes sense.
Just one other quick thing. Can I just make one other point? This should have all been done by 1990. That's in dealing with the ADA, that's when the whole town should have had all this information together. Just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you, Karen. I think the first selectman would like to say something.
I just have a question, Karen, for you. Are you making your questions about the schools, is that based on a specific question or something you've seen? Because in general, the schools are under pretty strict guidelines for building and for, there's a lot of very interested parents and very strong organizations around the school system. I am curious if you're seeing deficiencies. That would be interesting to me, because more so than the town, I think they should be really on top of this.
Well, I'm not saying I know that or don't know that, but I clearly am saying that they need to be in compliance with the ADA. They could have different factors that they're looking at, dealing with the schools, but the schools are part of the town. So that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I think the schools are probably very, very good at this, because there's a lot of very watchful eyes and a lot of inspections, but there could be.
Yeah, I've been to back to school night at Ludlow High School and Woods. And I've used the elevators, gone around all the classrooms, and I've had no problem in a wheelchair.
They would be in serious trouble, I think, more so than the town.
But in terms of ADA and ADA compliance, it's very specific. Wouldn't you say, Kathleen?
Well, I think you're also 100, yes, and there's also different types of access and different issues. But I do know the schools, to Bill's point, that a lot of it, the curriculum wise, program wise, access to events and activities, those things I know, and I guess, again, I'm presuming, I do know that they have strict reporting guidelines as well. But I'd love to go see what they have, because, hey, we like to see what they have and how they do their compliance, what they have in place, because we could borrow that too. And but your points are very, I appreciate them.
Wanted to make one comment about sidewalks. So this won't surprise you, but they're very, very expensive. So I think people's expectations, it's not going to happen overnight. We have some horrible even where we have sidewalks, we have some really substandard sidewalks, in that if you've ever been down Burroughs, for example, I've heard stories of people in wheelchairs who can't get around, they circle around a mailbox and it's too narrow. So this is probably a 15-year thing. So when you hear complaints, we want to know where those complaints are, but we are studying all the sidewalks and trying to get grants, but also using some of our own money to replace them or build them, stretch by stretch.
As an example, I think that's one of the things we'd like to be able to do as a commission, is communicate that back to town members if they bring it to our attention, that recognizing that this is a longer term project, that the town's aware of these needs and they're working on it and progressing toward that. Because I think sometimes people do bring their observations and think that nothing's being done about it, but it's just one of the things.
We have 250 miles of sidewalks.
Yeah.
I don't know, or no, of roads, and not enough sidewalks.
Theory, at least sidewalks on one side of, if not both, but then you've got you know, what does sometimes happen is there's an area where there's no sidewalks, but next year we're gonna pave there. Now, when we go to pave, there are sidewalks with deficiencies, but they don't necessarily get addressed. But in 2 years, when they go to pave, when they come in to pave it, not only do they address everything, but they also deal with everything all the way to the curb entry and bring all of that into compliance for everyone's benefit. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but the town has in recent years been much more aggressive at trying to move in that direction. And then to Bill's point, and if you look at the Complete Streets Initiative, which is connectivity, pedestrian, that side of, and just overall road safety, is that's additional dollars and trying to get outside dollars, and all of that means more lane miles that we can touch. But yeah, there's lane mile wise, it's roughly 250, which is a lot. And sidewalks are disproportionate, compared to the road, disproportionately expensive. So it is a dollars and cents piece, but there are certain areas that are brought to our attention where, it's not, it's the tree roots and it's caused an issue, and it's in an area and we're aware of it, it's become a pressing issue, or from an ADA, the landing correctly into the roadway, things like that, we can do one-offs as necessary. So it's sort of hunting down the ones that are definitely a priority.
I was gonna say a suggestion might be, and I don't wanna, I know at the time, but one of the things I think might be helpful that we could work on is short and long-term goals, kind of make areas where, we're chunking things out, short-term things, short and long-term things that we know of as we become aware, and try to get, okay, this is ideal, this is a goal we'd like to get to. And just for me, that's helpful. And I think that one of the things I was gonna work on this, our team and internally, is trying to get those areas. So we'd love to, my feeling would be great to know those areas that, whatever it is, like, and then start chunking things out in terms of planning.
Yeah.
And
one of the things Adrian worked on with some students from Sacred Heart was we tried to do a survey and put it out to the town, and we just never really got enough responses for it to be,
Statistically valid.
exact. Thank you. That was the word, yeah. And but it was helpful to kind of draw on some anecdotal feedback, and maybe that anecdotal feedback is, depending on which part of the demographic you reach out to, the largest need depends on who you're speaking to. Like, I know that, one of the things we heard quite a bit was about the sidewalks, but then I went to a SEPTA meeting, and a lot of what I heard there too was a desire for more adaptive recreation options in town. And again, like, both I think are valid wants and needs. I don't know where they balance out,
Just so adaptive rec. So at Sullivan McKinney-Homes, that used to be the pilot house. It has not been really used for programs. We have architects looking at, we're going to be focused on converting the fields into adaptive rec fields, and inside that was a gym.
Yeah.
So right now the plan is preliminary. It's like 2/3 of it'll be gym, and 1/3 of it will be used for programs like job training. So be very-
Playground.
Yeah, the outdoor playground's gonna get
Field
rebuilt.
space is also, it's a playground, and
But they want to make the ball field into, like wheelchair friendly, and
That's very
this is Anthony Calabrese's, it started with us, and then we wrote, Anthony, and he's incredibly excited about it. He has someone that works for him this is her passion, so we're very excited.
moving around, miscellaneous space, not right, sized, and this will make a focused area for it, which would be great.
That's excellent. Yeah, I think just being able to communicate that to people would be a huge encouragement to know that towns they are thinking about those things, and
Well, this was one of the top things that I heard knocking doors, because I have a lot of friends with kids with, you know, or had, you know, now they're adults, young adults, especially, you know, after, well, during the school year, the adaptive rec program is always like bouncing around, like wherever there's available space, and Anthony is aware of that. And also, you know, after you graduate from, now you can stay in through 22, but on your 22nd birthday, you know, you need things for people.
This is Adrian. I'm on the call. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
I think that one of the things, so I have a daughter with special needs, and I can tell you that there really wasn't any program this summer that could that really worked. And I think one of the things that would be helpful is when it comes to inclusivity, there are so many needs that are broad. So there's like physical needs, of course, that like adaptive equipment or playgrounds to make that accessible, but there's also different needs when it comes to whatever folks are managing through, whether it's autism, you know, neurodiversity. And I think, you know, one of the things, for example, there was an offering in the Parks and Recs guide, and I called and I said, can I enroll my daughter and have her bring an aide? And would that be okay? And it was like, yeah, that was totally fine. And I think we could do a better job of like acknowledging that there are families that may require different needs. And if they have a point person that they can reach out to say, I may want to, because the adaptive program is very specific and it's wonderful, but it's just a very specific thing that's not going to work for all kids that have different needs. But some of the programs in the Parks and Recs guides, I think would, but parents need to know that they can. And if we can, I think even make a call out in that guide to say, if your child has a need that requires some more support to participate in a program, reach out to so-and-so. Because I know as a parent and a citizen of the town, I would really appreciate knowing that someone would be willing to take a phone call with me to figure out if my daughter can participate in a program. And if I have to offer some support to her, would that be okay? Is there a liability or anything we have to get permission for, anything like that? And I think going back to the roads and things, because it did come up in the survey, I think just some transparency, because again, this is all about access. And in some ways, like people just can't access things. And so that's really hard to think you live in the town and it could take up to 15 years for, you know, your access to work. But I get it. We're dealing with, you know, limited finances, but I think if we can just be transparent and say, we hear you, and where we can, we're going to make some things very, you know, we can work on things more quickly. And these are our broader plans, just so folks feel like these comments and feedback that they've given are not going on deaf ears.
Yeah. And can I just, so we need to, I mean, we sort of just not that long ago sort of regained that space at Sullivan and McKinney, and we are in the planning stage, but we won't have access to it, you know, full time until the end of March, beginning of April. But we should get stakeholder feedback like ASAP as we start to design. And what's the best avenue to get stakeholder feedback? Would that be sort of through SEPTA or through?
I would say that's probably the richest feedback you'll get.
Yeah.
It's an age group that will be, it's an age, I think there's a lot of input. Not that that's the only place you'll get, but I think you'll get a lot of good input. Partially because some of them as families, from what I understand, they're going down to programs. I think it's in
It's the UB
they mentioned, I can't remember off the top of my head, I'll have to look at my notes, but there's a really good program that was south of us. Maybe, I don't know, but I know that they might have ideas of things that would be helpful in town.
I would suggest to reaching out to Rob Mancusi.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Rob, and also just maybe generally putting it out there for other people to.
You could
We should do like some meetings for people to give their opinions.
They can target, you know, specifically parents of children who are IEP'd and receiving services.
Can I make a suggestion, please? These
Yeah, of
sound like,
course.
these sound like so many important issues. And my thought is that we set up, or that you set up, a list of areas in which that need to be worked, that you need to work on, or committee needs to work. Get the help of people from the community to work on various committees that you are involved with, and to set up ADA, I guess is what I'm saying. Am I making sense, or you?
No, but I think that's what, exactly what we're right, spot on, that we agree. And I wanted to follow up Adrian, that was a really good point, because we did have an issue of this over the summer. And I did involve legal about trying to get an accommodation for a child who needed a reasonable accommodation, and trying to get them in the program. And it happened late, like the program was just starting. And so the participant had to wait longer than we wanted. So I think that one of the things I did discuss with Anthony, and so glad you brought it up again, about how can we avoid that going forward? How can we do better? And also in training employees about ADA, and especially, this is like very specifics. I'm sure the schools deal with it. They may not with seasonals, even like employees too, seasonal employees who usually are in their teens, and how they can get access as well. Can we? So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because before we know it, it's going to be, I know it doesn't seem like that with the winter coming, but we're going to be right back in it. So.
Yeah, I really can't tell you how much it meant to be able to get something like that. When you have a circumstance where it's so limited what your children can participate in to begin with. So to know that something like that, and like I said, I know it may not be able to be, every circumstance could be accommodated, but if it could, or there's a way to give some guidance, just putting that out there to families, I think because this group has also been working on a directory of like services and activities and things that offer, all types of accommodations for not just children, but young people, young adults. And so it's just nice to know that, if we can make it happen, we want to try to do it. And I think it sends a really good message to the community that, like, we know that the way our programs are structured, like, may not work for everyone as they are currently, but if you reach out to us, we'll do everything we can to try to make sure we can include all children that would want to participate. And you may also then start just getting more feedback from more diverse families as well, as far as what they need.
Yeah, so along those lines, we're trying to build up our page on the town's website, and we've linked to your page in case people have concerns they could share with you or us. And to Adrian's point, we're trying to kind of piece together resources that would be helpful for families and citizens in town. If we can be, however we can be a assistance to you as you move about this project. So if it's helping find people to give input on the adaptive recreation site, if it's ways for us to help spread, a compassionate and clear message about the work the town is doing, if we can help in terms of figuring out the priorities of like most urgent needs in town, we'd love to. We've been trying to, I think, but we've kind of, with our survey, we got some ideas, just not enough. We didn't hear back from enough people.
It's so hard to get people.
Until there's a problem, then they're.
I remember age-friendly Fairfield tried to get, no one, it's.
You got 1,000?
You did.
Cow.
You got 1,000. The first time though,
62,000,
it was a lot less.
It was.
A few
Exactly
years
right.
ago. Yeah, this was better.
Yeah.
Well, I also,
Feels like a lot. I mean,
Engaged, yeah.
we got 130 after like 3
You
years.
had Fairfield doing their social justice program.
Wow,
I
excellent.
can't tell you that was us.
Yeah, excellent. I do want to, before, because we have to wrap up the meeting, but Matt Wagner is on the call with us, I believe.
Yes.
And Matt, we're very thankful you're on here. I apologize. But one of the things we had reached out to Matt about was how we can help through this election season with being from the ADA compliance side of things, but also are there things we can do to help get the word out there in terms of voting? And so Matt, I know you mentioned on our email that you're open to ideas. Is there anything you could say to us about things we're doing now or ways that we might be able to help in terms of the different voting locations and the needs there? Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Matt. Hold on, Matt, you're on mute.
Can I unmute myself? Does that work?
Yeah, we'd love
All
that.
right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm sorry that my schedule got a little away from me today, so I wasn't able to be there in person. But we do have a few things that we do routinely, and so making people aware of them is something that we've sort of done more or less over the years. One of the services that we all, of course, we're required to have ADA accessible polling places, and that's a part of what we do. But using the schools solves for that in a lot of ways. We also offer something called curbside voting for people who feel like they're not able to get into the polling place or have a hard time navigating the sort of distance that they have to travel. So we've made that available kind of on a bigger and more prominent basis since 2020. We have designated parking spots at every polling location with phone numbers of the workers inside, so people can call in and we will send someone out to bring their ballot to them. So that's an accommodation that we're able to offer. We also have equipment specifically for it's an audio ballot and a touchscreen ballot system designed to help primarily voters with vision impairment or with poor motor control. There's a new ability for people who use what's called a sip and puff device to use those as well. We haven't encountered any in person yet, but we are sort of equipped to assist people who use sip and puffs in voting in private. The challenge we've had is that it's been very difficult to find the audience for that service. We worked with the Senior Center a few years ago to visit and discuss with the low vision support group that meets there. And while people were interested and they were sort of grateful for sort of seeing what we were offering, the message I got was, we sort of have a plan. We have to trust family members and things to help us do a lot of things. And so we've sort of become accustomed to absentee voting as the accessible service that we make use of for voting. So, I would love for more people to be aware of. It's sort of hard to identify like which group I could communicate with to make this available, right? Because people with disabilities are like everywhere. It's just sort of like there's not like a list that I can like reach out to directly. So we put some messages on our annual election mailings, sort of highlighting those accessibility services that we offer. But I always wonder, well, how is it possible for us to do a more targeted message and maybe more direct outreach to sort of make that available to people who wouldn't otherwise be aware of it? So, the other thing I guess I would say is just having an awareness from people of things that are obstacles to them or that are that make voting difficult that they would like support with. Like, how can we sort of address pain points that people are experiencing? So, over the years, I've received a number of sort of calls or people who had issues, and we've found some new and interesting ways to kind of address people's particular concerns. One of our residents actually was successful in getting the state to permit voters who are blind to use screen readers to fill out their ballots. So they'd be able to vote in private from home, which was not previously available. So that's something that I helped work on and was pretty excited that we actually got that implemented. So if people do have things that they're experiencing that I'm not necessarily aware of, make me aware of them, and I'll do what I can to try and solve for those problems, or at least build in so we can address them in the future. So would love to sort of have a larger or longer discussion. It sounds like the meeting's wrapping up, so I don't want to keep you, but I'm very happy to sort of get your feedback and suggestions as well.
Hey, Matt, this is Adrian. I think that's amazing. I don't know if it's appropriate, better question for the folks in the room, but one major communication channel, at least to parents, is in like school newsletters. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask PTAs of the schools to include in their newsletter, like just a note that says, accessibility support for voting on those days, but I know that those reach a large audience.
I'll say I am 2 months into being a PTA parent, so
Yes.
I have never considered that before, but now I get the newsletters, so I know what you're talking about.
Yes. If there's one thing I read every week, it is the newsletter. I'm not gonna lie. So, because there's just so much good information in there.
You don't read the
but-
town email?
I read the town, I do read the town email. Don't worry.
You can put it in there actually as well.
The newsletters have been, I think, where we've seen people actually notice information. So that's a great idea. All right.
All right, well, that's an easy one. Thank you. I'll do it.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate that. We will definitely, I know, like you said, we're running out of time on the meeting, but we'll definitely put some time in our next, we'll put some, so I think by the time we meet again, actually, we'll be after the election, but we're close to it. But certainly if you need help getting word out there for volunteers specifically in this area, or if there's other needs that come up as you approach the election season, definitely please feel free to reach out to us, and if we can assist getting the word out through some of our channels, we'd be happy to help do that too.
Sure, and let me say, right, the presidential years tend to bring out a lot of volunteers, so we're looking good in terms of numbers. But one thing I think I would be interested in, and whether it's this year or in the future, there's, you know, we've had discussions about what were to happen, what would we do if someone came and said, I want to serve in this role, but you know, have a vision impairment or I'm disabled. Like how do we build that into our work, like our plan for our workers? And so to be a more sort of welcoming employer essentially of election day workers, that's something that we have not done very much work on, and would be open to suggestions or even just people willing to work with us to kind of figure out where our weaknesses are and how we could improve them.
That'd be something you would.
The poll workers are considered vendors.
Okay.
It's probably something that could, well, I mean, yeah, obviously, something that we could look at with, you know, best get that around, and what would be, if someone's asking, like anything, if someone's saying, I want to do this, but I need a reasonable accommodation. And that would be something as the ADA compliance officer and with our legal, if it's something to do, be able, and with my team that I just put Anthony on too, with Parks, this is important, kind of look at that.
Yeah.
And then maybe, so that, I mean, I'm not just employee trying to do that, we're trying to resolve things. And even though they're considered vendors, are still doing work for the town.
Right.
Good work for the town.
Yeah, I think any opportunity for a citizen to serve and help in town actually raises their sense of value and contribution to the community as well. So that'd be.
And to Matt's point too, volunteers too. You don't want to, you know, you always want to make sure you get volunteers and activity and make sure more the merrier, right?
Right, absolutely. All right, well, thank you very much, Matt, for being here. Thank you three for being here as well with us. This has been very helpful, I think, to kind of to work with, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us if we can help. We do want to contribute. I think we're trying to, we keep growing and finding ways to do that. And thank you for all that you're doing. It's exciting. It will be exciting to share the news about the adaptive recreation, because I think there will be a lot of people that will be excited about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Do we need to go in terms of business or department updates or anything like that?
We have our multiple resident outreach form that I can send to everybody, that if anybody is not, who feels as though they need assistance in an emergency, to let us know that. But I'll send that out to everyone.
All right, thank you very much. All right, well, I hate to do this, but could I call for someone to motion for us to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Ryan. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shannon. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you all very, very much. I genuinely appreciate, and I apologize for my abruptness. This is